let's move on to our third big topic here, because one of the things you are most well known for, possibly the most thing you're most well known for, is your site all about Swift, Swift by Sundell, and you obviously write stacks and stacks and stacks of articles for there and tips and more on the site. And you must be asked this so many times. What is the best place to start for folks who want to get into writing about Swift or writing about iOS on the web?
Yeah, so this is a very common question. I get this question quite a lot. And I think the most important thing, like before you get started writing or doing anything that's creative, whether it's writing or podcasting or creating videos or creating apps or whatever it is you want to create, I think the most important thing you first have to ask yourself is, why do I want to do this, right? Like, what's your motivation for doing it? Because I want to tell you a little fun story. So Paul, and the listeners also here in the chat can tell me, have you ever heard of Sundell's Swift? Not Swift by Sundell, but Sundell's Swift.
So I have, but that's cheating, because I heard a talk from you at App Builders 2018.
Right. So that's cheating.
I listened to your talks, John.
Before then, yeah, you do, and you memorized. That's great. But before then, you probably hadn't heard about it, right?
Right.
And some people in the chat here are saying that they never heard of it. And I'm not blaming you, because that was my previous blog, my previous website. Before I started Swift by Sundell, I had another website called Sundell Swift. And no one has ever heard about that because no one really read that site. No one discovered that site. No one read the articles on there. And the thing is that, so why did that first site fail? Like, why didn't no one ever heard of it? And why does the current site that I have, I'm not going to say like, oh, my site is a huge success or whatever, but it's doing fairly okay. Like it's I'm very happy with how it's turned out. So I think the biggest difference is between my goals and my way of thinking when I started those two projects. So when I started my first blog, I honestly didn't really know why I was doing it. I did it because everybody else seemed to be blogging. You went to conferences, everyone had a blog. You listened to podcasts, everyone had a blog. You talked to the senior developers in your company, they all had blogs. And, it just seemed like that's what you should be doing, And again, I was kind of at that point in my career where I wanted to kind of go to the next level. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to start a blog. It just felt like what I had to do. And I think a lot of people feel that way. They feel like they kind of have to, like it's part of being a developer is having a blog and writing articles or being a podcast. And, it was that great joke on Twitter a few months ago, which was like, the level of being a developer is like junior developer, senior developer, podcast host, and it's easy to feel that way. It feels like, that's what you should do. But I don't think that's a recipe for success. I don't think that's something that can help you, do this in the long term. Because if you're doing it just because everybody else is doing it, or because you don't know why you're doing it, you just kind of started doing it, well, it's going to be hard to keep up with motivation. And that's honestly what happened with my first blog. I just wrote 3 articles and then I stopped because I didn't have any motivation. I didn't know why I was doing it. I didn't have something that kind of was driving me. And if you compare that to Swift by Sundell, which when it started was just a Medium blog, I didn't even have the website. I just started on Medium. And I just set a challenge to myself. I wanted to, at that point, I had a very clear goal. And my goal was I wanted to become a better writer. I had learned, because I had been writing more and more documentation when I was working at Spotify, I had learned that I kind of enjoyed writing documentation. I enjoyed writing about code. So I wanted to improve those skills. I wanted to become a better writer. So I set myself a challenge and I said, you know what? I'm going to write 1 new article, even if it's a short one, every single week and publish it. And I'm going to see how many weeks I can keep up doing that. That was a challenge to myself. And once I got into the groove of doing that, I just kept going. And I haven't stopped. I'm still doing that. I'm still writing a new article every week. I'm still on that streak for 160-something weeks now. And I think that's really the difference, is that when you're starting, you need to have some kind of goal. And again, if you can't find that goal, I think you have to ask yourself, well, should I really be doing this? Maybe you should do something else. There's so many different ways to contribute to the community. You don't have to write articles. You can do a lot of different things. You can do something like contribute to open source. You can mentor people in your own local community. You can mentor people in your company. You can help people out. You can make YouTube videos or screencasts or live streams, whatever you want to do. There's so many different ways to contribute. And I think that's the most important thing, is to ask yourself, why am I doing this and what are my goals with it?
Right.